In this class, I will share with you the 3 topics under the personal effectiveness and conflicts at work, which are personal development plan, conflicts, and consequences of ineffectiveness at work. So let's start to discuss about the personal development plan. For personal development plan, it is a clear developmental action or action plan for an individual that incorporates a wide set of developmental opportunities, including formal training. So for a career, for the employee's career, they are increasingly encouraged to manage their own development. In other words, it's their responsibility to manage their own career path instead of a rules or any other procedures set on them. With consultation of management, the employees might be asked to set up personal development plans whereby they set targets and purpose actions or propose actions, activities to achieve them. So in other words, the guidance or coaching by the senior management on the employees to develop their plan about their career. And it should be very clear, it's the employee responsibility in develop their own career plan. And the development is more general than training. In another section, we discussed about training, but for development or career development, it is a more forward-looking and orientated towards the individual, and is concerned with enabling the individual to fulfill their potential. So for training, it is more practical, and the skills can immediately be used or deployed, and training is more likely to connect with job performance. But for development or personal development plan, there's no immediate practical application. And over time, it enables a person to deal with wider problems. And here, the personal development plan and the preparation can be divided into 3 stages, as I will share with you here. The first stage is analysis of current position, while the second stage is to set goals, and the third stage is to draw up action plan to achieve the goals, as what stated in stage 2. And here I will describe each stage one by one. The first stage, analysis of current position. It requires the individual with their manager to carry out a personal SWOT analysis. So personal SWOT analysis also including strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it is a way to assess an individual in a simple way, what an individual does by referring to the job description, evaluating which aspects of a job an individual likes and dislikes on the one hand, and those aspects that an individual does well and not so well on the other hand. So here is a table showing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So here, for example, when a person likes a task and does well for this particular task, it is a strength of the person as well as the opportunity for him or her to grow in this particular area. And if an individual or a person dislikes a task, but he can or she can do it well, then it is maybe a threat on him or her, but honestly, it is a strength. And once the person likes a task, but a lot of improvement needed for him or her to perform well, then we call it weaknesses, but fall into opportunities. And if a person dislikes and does not do well on a particular task, then we call it threats and weaknesses as well. So we identify what a person likes and does well, and then we can develop further on this particular area. Then we can go into stage 2 to set goals. So following stage 1 analysis, personal goals should be set for the individual. And we can identify the task the person does not do well are examined and reasons are established. And also we can take the form of an alternative and more traditional type of SWOT analysis by examining the person's strengths and weaknesses. So in the personal development plan, in the stage 2, the set goals, we can identify what task or areas of a particular person likes, but does not do it well, and see whether we can improve it. So once the weaknesses or particular weaknesses identified, and it may cause failure to perform the task, this can be put in the goal and see how to improve it. So for the goals, to set the goals, remember the characteristic of SMART objectives. SMART stands for 5 different objectives. So first, the goal should be specific. It is clear what it means by the objective. So everyone reached the goal, then he or she should know what is the objective put on it. So it should be specific. Next is measurable for M. The first is S, specific, then is M, measurable. It will be possible to assess the extent to which the objective has been met. In other words, it is a quantitative goal instead of just qualitative. The description, like to say, Peter has to do a job well, or do a good job. It's not specific and not measurable, so it cannot be a goal. But, in other words, the SMART objective means that it is specific, like Peter has to achieve 10 sales per month. So it is specific, 10 sales per month, and measurable because after 1 month, it can be measured and compared to the goal whether whether Peter can achieve it. So it is specific and measurable. And next is A, achievable. So for Peter, for the case of Peter, whether 10 sales in a month is whether it is achievable or not. Say for example, if he can only achieve 1 or 2 sales per month in the last year, then 10 sales per month may not be achievable or reasonable for him or her, for Peter to do it. So the objective represents something that can be implemented in the real world and can be met by the recent resources available. So under Peter's case, if the historical performance is only 1 or 2 sales per month, then the achievable goal may be 3 or 4 sales per month. Is specific, measurable, and achievable. And the fourth element under SMART is relevant. The objective is linked to the organization's overall work outcomes. So whether to consider 4 sales per month is relevant to the corporate or organization's overall objectives or work outcomes, we need to evaluate whether how many salesmen in the organization to deliver the sales which is the target or budget for the organization. So in other words, Peter's objective is not only specific, measurable, achievable, but also relevant to the organizations as well. And timely. The last characteristic of SMART objectives is timely. Delivery of the objectives is linked to a specific date. So under Peter's goal, to have 4 sales per month in next say in next quarter. So it is a timely objective Peter has to achieve in the next 3 months. And for each month, he has to deliver at least 4 sales, which is the goal for him. So it is the goal setting procedures or goal setting characteristics under these SMART objectives. It should be very clear, specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant to the organization, as well as it can be measured within a period of time. So under stage 2, we set the goals for a particular person, and then once the goal is set up, then we can move to stage 3, draw up an action plan. An action plan and training program should be based on addressing the identified weaknesses. Here, identify weaknesses and trying to move more of the task of the current role into the do well side of the matrix on the left hand side. So if you remember what we discussed in stage 1 about the SWOT analysis for an individual, we divided into strengths, weaknesses, as well as opportunities and threats. So in case a person likes a task, but he cannot do it well, so it is opportunities for him, even it is a weakness for him. So we identify the weaknesses of an individual and try to allocate some resources to improve an individual on, say here, the personal development plan, and drop the action plan on how to improve it, how to move the weakness into do well side. So finally, the person like the task as well as he can do it well. And it is easier to improve the performance of individuals in tasks they like performing than in those that they don't. So as I said, a task, a person like it, but he cannot do it well, then we can put some resources on training or on how to improve him in order for him to do it better, to do it well. But if he doesn't like it and he cannot do it well, then we don't know how much of the resources we can put on him on improving it. And even he can improve it because he doesn't like it, then it is also a threat to us, to the organization as well. So once we draw up the personal development plan, we drop the action plan as well. Does it mean we finish our task or job? No, definitely not, because we need to have the monitoring and feedback. So once the goals and personal ambitions have been defined and the person has begun the development plan, the monitoring must begin. So it's just after writing the plan and agreed, signed by all parties, then it is just the beginning of the monitoring. So monitoring is, in simple terms, means watching over something that is happening. And we talk about the control or control processes. The control processes give people timely, relevant feedback on their performance. This is information about how they did in the light of some goal, and that can be used to improve performance. So the control processes is a timely and relevant feedback on the performance. So it gives you some clue about what should be the feedback to the employee here. If we would like to monitor and improve the employee performance, we need to have the feedback on it. So we talk about feedback. Some key points I would like to highlight here. First, feedback will usually be provided by the manager or supervisor and should be concurrent or certainly not long delayed. The purpose of monitoring and feedback is to improve an employee performance under the personal development plan. So feedback play a very critical role in achieving on how to improve the employee performance. So first, who should provide the feedback? The manager and supervisor. Okay, not the others, because the manager or supervisor has the role to improve the overall team's performance, and then the overall organization performance can be improved as well. And the feedback should be concurrent or timely, because if the feedback is long delay, say you finish the task today, then the feedback is provided by 2 months later, then maybe you forget what you did today after 2 months. So it should not be long delayed, and feedback should be clear and frequent, and this can only be achieved if there is continuous monitoring of the task. So it's clear and regular feedback, which is very important in the monitoring of employee performance. And feedback can also have a motivating effect by providing recognition and of work done, which in turn provides the incentive to sustain and improve performance level. So providing recognitions of work done, it's about a culture. In some organizations, they are not encouraged the people to provide recognition or very minimal recognitions within the organization. Some organization, maybe it's the different in culture, may have a lot of rules, procedures, as well as punishments for the individuals they cannot perform or behave not as expected by the management, and it is demotivating. So here, feedback should be motivating. It's not punishment. It's a motivating effect by providing recognition of what is doing well by the employee. And recognition, praise, and encouragement create feelings of confidence, competence, development, and progress that enhance the motivation to learn. So as said, recognition is very important as part of the feedback because it helps to improve the overall sentiment and the employee confidence as well in order to improve much further. So we complete the personal development plan. Then we now move on to another topic in an organization. It's conflict. Because in this chapter, we talk about personal effectiveness, what we already gone through, what we have done, like the time management, competency framework, coaching, mentoring, and counseling, as well as personal development plan. Then we now move on to conflict, and which is highly related to our final topic in this class, which are the consequences of ineffectiveness at work. So first of all, what is conflict? Conflict is defined as any personal divergence of interest between groups and individuals. So it's what I called it. It is the official definition of conflict. It's some personal divergence of interest between groups and individuals. And here, we can divide the conflicts into two categories here. The first one is destructive conflict. As we know, for most jobs, there's a person in contact every day. So, in sometimes conflict cannot be avoided, but we all know that to work effectively, conflict could damage our working relationship with others as well as what we produce. And so finally, our productivity will be worsened. Then we need to improve it. So for destructive conflict here, it's very obvious. The conflict affects the overall effectiveness of an organization. So to work effectively, we need to therefore be aware of potential sources of conflicts that could damage our working relationships with others, as well as how we can deal with conflict when it arises. So it means that the destructive conflict, it just ruins the overall or the people relationship within an organization. But sometimes we can see the constructive conflict. And what is constructive conflict? While some conflict can be positive within the organization, leading to existing ways of working and ideas being challenged. So sometimes the ideas flow out and the people would like to discuss. Sometimes they have conflict with each other about the ideas. But during the discussion or even the conflict, there are some challenges and some positive feedback on how to improve the ideas into a workable way among the teams in the organizations. So it is called constructive conflict. And after the two categories, destructive conflict and constructive conflict, we have two types of conflict in an organization. The first one is vertical, and the second one is horizontal. For vertical conflict, this is conflict that occurs between individuals and groups at different level of the organization's hierarchy. So it means that the conflict between, say, the top management to the middle management, or the middle management to the general staff, or even for the top management to the general staff. So here are the conflicts between two layers of an organization, different groups or different layers in an organization. Another type is horizontal. Horizontal conflict is a conflict that occurs between individuals and groups at the same level of the organization's hierarchy. That means maybe between two departments, the department heads are not happy with each other, they have conflicts. So horizontal means that the layers is at the same level in an organization. So what causes the conflict? For vertical conflict, examples include lack of communication, like the senior management, they don't communicate with the middle management, or even no communication in the organization. So the management just put an instruction or orders to the staff in the middle management or the general staff. No communication, and it leads to junior workers feeling unimportant because they are not be consulted, or their voices, no one listen about their voices as well. So lack of communication, they have some conflict with this senior management in this case, maybe. The second causes of conflict for vertical conflict is disagreements over remuneration or working conditions. So here it's very straightforward because they are not happy about their salary and benefits. So the junior staff, they have the conflict with the senior management. And the third type or third causes of conflict here is disagreements over employee workloads due to poor coordination. So it's about the fairness. Some employee find they are overworked or the workload is too heavy because of the poor management of the task by the management staff. Then they have conflicts with the senior management on unfair allocation of the task. And the final type final causes of vertical conflict is personality crashes. So it's just simple explained by the personality between two persons. Then it has the personality crashes. And for horizontal conflict, the major causes here, this first one is personality crashes. So personality crashes can happen in vertical or horizontal, but for horizontal conflict, it contributes more cases under the horizontal conflict because two persons, if they are not talking with each other, they don't talk with each other, they are not happy with each other, no matter what reasons, then the personality crashes will result the conflicts between two parties here. And next is about the role ambiguity, or the so-called where the individual's authority overlaps. So it's unclear the roles and responsibility within the organizations, especially between two departments. Then it comes up to the horizontal conflict. It's quite often when we see a lot of cases in an organization to have ambiguous role between two departments or individuals, then and no one provide a guidance on this case, then they will have the conflict with each other. And the third causes under horizontal conflict is lack of available resources. So it's simple, like increasing workload for a particular department, but without any additional resources for them to solve it, then they will have conflict with other departments. Say, if some other departments have some more resources, then they will find it's not fair to them. So they will have some conflict with others. So here, the conflict, we talk about the cases, and you can use these cases to explain what are the conflicts. First, we have two persons, the Director of Human Resources, HRD. Another person is Finance Director. So within a business, the HRD, the Director of Human Resources, and the Finance Director may find themselves in conflict over the hiring of new members of staff. So assuming we have new members, the Human Resources Director will be keen to offer competitive rates of pay for the employees in order to attract the very best possible staff. So the results can be beneficial to the organization with higher effectiveness and maybe improved profitability. So improved effectiveness is the same goal of Finance Director because it helps to improve the company's profit. But on the other hand, the Finance Director may also concern about the salary. If it's too high, then they will ask a question whether we can reduce the salary paid in order to have a better profitability for the organization. So it's an example to have the horizontal conflict here. Because for the Human Resources Director and the Finance Director, they are at the two different departments. Here may be the Human Resources Department and here may be the Finance Department. They are in the same level in the organization because they are all directors. And they disagree about the way that the organization's goals should be achieved and the allocation of resources. Then they have a conflict about who is the right candidates to hire in this case. If it happens, this could lead to several problems for the company itself. Maybe in this case, the relationship between the two directors could be damaged and making it difficult for them to cooperate in the future. Apart from that, the conflict, if unresolved, could mean that the company finds itself lacking key new members of staff for the immediate future. So sometimes it's very political for hiring a person. If, say, the finance director would like this person, for example, like candidate and A and B, finance director prefer candidate B because it is the request salary is lower, even it's not the best one, but because of the salary is lower, so he would like to hire this person because of lower cost. But the human resources director doesn't think the same. Then finally, the person, no matter candidate A or candidate B, will not be hired because of the conflict between two directors. Then it's just hold up the decision of hiring new members. It affects the organizations in the long term. So we all know that conflict is not good and how to avoid it. We have 4 ways to improve or to avoid conflict. First, good communication. Conflict can be caused by simple misunderstandings, as we explained before. And making sure that managers and staff freely and regularly communicate with each other about issues that arise is therefore important. So in case, for example, under the vertical conflict, if the senior management, they don't communicate the message to the middle management or to the general staff, the conflict cannot be avoided. But improve the communication, at least some of the staff will understand the situations and they are well communicated. They don't have the conflict with senior management. And next, rules and procedures. Having clearly defined rules can help to avoid conflict. So it's clear. Everyone knows what their roles and responsibility. Then it helps to improve a bit. And if all employees know what they are responsible for within the organization, they are less likely to conflict with each other. At least some of them, even not all of them. Avoiding a blame culture. So managers need to lead by example here. So it's just a culture way. If a manager is in a regular conflict with other employees, this is likely to be imitated by other, more junior members or staff. So managers should play a role model here to avoid blame culture. And the 4th way to avoid conflict here we talk about is ensuring a fair allocation of resources. As we explained in the causes of conflict, fairness, I repeat this word quite often because staff, they don't like unfair treatment. So managers should ensure that staff, cash and other resources are fairly allocated between departments and individuals. It helps to reduce disagreements and conflicts. So once a conflict is found and cannot be avoided, so how can the managers do it or solve it? So here are some possible approaches for a manager to adopt in order to manage the conflict. First, denial. Second, suppression. Third, reduction or negotiation. And the 4th approach is resolution. So I will explain these 4 possible approaches step by step, one by one. For denial, this involves the manager ignoring the conflict and hoping that it blows over without needing any intervention. So it's simple way for a manager to do it, just ignore it. But it works sometimes, especially for minor conflicts between employees. Say, for example, like the conflict between 2 staff for which restaurant for lunch. Say, for example, then it's just very minor case, minor conflicts. The manager just ignore it, it's fine. Second is suppression. The manager can threaten the conflicting parties with punishments if they fail to overcome their problems. And suppression is sometimes a short-term solution, but it is only a short-term solution, and it will not be successful for major conflicts. So be careful of adopting suppression in managed conflict. especially there's some major conflicts between two parties. If there's a major conflict between two parties, the next approach can be adopted, which is the reduction negotiation approach. The manager can act as a neutral third party and negotiate a compromise agreement between the conflicting parties. It is the most commonly used approach, with both parties getting some of what they want. So the rationale behind reduction and negotiation conflict management strategy is there's no one is fully right or fully correct. And the conflicting parties, they need to compromise in some extent in order to have an agreement with others. So the manager in this condition or situations is a neutral third party to find the final agreement between the conflicting parties. As said, there's no one is fully right. So the reduction and negotiation approach is most commonly used. And the final strategy here we described is resolution. It means that the manager seeks to find the root cause of the conflict and solve it. It is hopefully produce a win-win situation where both parties end up satisfied, but the disadvantage of resolution is it's very time consuming and sometimes very complex. But if the manager can afford it, resolution is the best strategy to adopt in order to manage conflict within an organization. However, what type of strategies to be adopted, it is subject to the manager's is subject to the situation as well as the manager themselves. Some manager would like to use suppression or denial, but in some situations it's not work. So the manager need to learn how to solve it. Especially this manager need to manage a lot of staff within an organization. So the last topic here we talk about is the consequences of ineffectiveness at work. As we said or described for the conflict, it leads to ineffectiveness. So what are the consequences of ineffectiveness at work? So first, individuals. We divided the discussion between individuals, and sometimes we come to the corporation or organization as well. For individuals, ineffectiveness means the quality of work is poor, attitude may be poor as well, communications is enough? No. If a person is unhappy and ineffective, just conflict with each other, so communication will not be good. And for deadlines, if say the accounting department, they need to meet the deadlines and targets as well. Like the month end, people would like to finish the month end closing within 20 days, for example. But if the individuals are not happy, they are not effective, they conflict with each other, they spend a lot of time in the conflict, then they will miss the deadlines because they cannot concentrate at their work. And another example is failing to maintain appropriate levels of key skills because the time consumed in other areas. So from the organization point of view, the ineffectiveness at work will result, like here, the loss of reputation and customers, because the quality of products, the quality of the products or services is not good. Maybe the poor productivity and motivation, and harder to make key business decisions and solve problems, and lack of information from staff about key issues because lack of communications. They don't want to share. So here are the consequences of ineffectiveness at work for both individuals and organizations. So now question time. In this class, we have one question about the feedback. So feedback should occur throughout the year as it provides useful information for the employee, which will help them to adjust their activities on an ongoing basis. So whether this statement is true or false. So remember, what are the feedbacks? What we described? What did we describe? Feedback usually provided by the manager or supervisor and should be concurrent, timely, not delayed. Clear and frequent feedback is very important. Motivating effects, and also we have some recognition. So whether you think this statement is true or false after this clause.